Today we're going to talk about how to handle and repair damaged or regular, normal, healthy, low porosity hair. Low porosity hair can be really challenging to maintain. In this video, I'm going to give you the easy tips and tricks from a licensed cosmetologist, herbalist, and trichologist to get you from point A to point B. If you want to master your low porosity hair, make sure you stick around to the end of this video. Before we get started, you already know, babe, subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up, and make sure when this video is over, if you haven't done so already, you go and watch part 1 so you're all covered. So if you feel like you are suffering from really dry hair, the first thing I need you to do is a scalp detox so you can begin to release some of your scalp's natural sebum. And if you need help getting your sebaceous gland back active, then sign up for the 7-day challenge. You can see here so many women, that is one of the main things that happens almost instantaneously when they're taking the 7-day challenge. An increase in sebum production is one of the #1 things that people say upon completing my 7-day challenge and making it their new routine indefinitely, because it's not just for 7 days, it's a new routine forever. Number 4 is going to be the tools and utensils that you're using on your hair. I know that for a long time we've been really nervous about doing our hair and using combs and brushes, and we've been doing finger detangling and things of that nature for a very long time, right? And hear me out. Sometimes finger detangling is cool. Maybe I was just about to lie. I don't know what are you doing? Just being realistic, if your motive is to detangle your hair, the average person has 100,000 follicles on their scalp, and each follicle has anywhere between 1 to 4 strands. So the average human being has anywhere between 100,000 and 400,000 strands of hair on their head. But you got 4 fingers on this hand and 4 on this hand. So you got 8 fingers. And these 8 fingers, because the thumbs don't count, so you got 8 fingers for 100,000 to 400,000 strands of hair. I don't know, I'm not a mathematician, but just let me know if you think that makes sense, because to me the numbers don't add up. 8 fingers for 100,000 to 400,000 strands don't really make sense. If you want to glide that waxy substance down the hair shaft so you can accomplish that last tip, then what you're going to need to do is have practices that allow you to comb your hair regularly without you damaging the hair shaft, right? So you really think about it and you do the math, it doesn't really make sense for you to use 8 fingers to detangle anywhere between 100,000 and 400,000 strands of hair. It is crazy. And so remember, your sebum is a waxy substance, and the sebum that is coming out of your hair shaft is imperative for keeping the hair shaft strong, right? And it also causes the slip that you guys need. You have more than enough slip because it's a waxy substance that allows your hair shafts to repel each other in a way where your hair is not getting matted and tangled as much, and you have shine, protection from UV rays. The sebum also kills bacteria and things of that nature on the scalp. It is literally magnificent. Make sure that you're limiting the tools that you're using. One tool, and I know I'm not going to speak against it that long, and I'm not going to go into it, but I want you guys to be really careful about the hair products that you're trying out and the new tools that come out. I'm not gonna speak against it, whatever. I'm just using this for an example. Do your business, do what you want to do. But one thing that I like to use for an example is the Rivera hair dryer. Now, even though a lot of people like to use it, even though it's all the craze now, you want to be careful when you're using tools like that, because using a tool that causes mass amounts of manipulation when the hair shaft is at its weakest state, which is when it's wet, is uncontrollable. So yeah, the hairstylist can kind of control it and control the heat settings and all of that, but in reality there's only a small amount of control that the professional has when they're sticking your hair in a hole and pushing the button. So you want to be really careful of the amount of manipulation that you're doing to your hair shaft, and you want to be really careful about the way that you pull and tug on the hair whenever you have low porosity hair. So if you have low porosity hair and your go-to hairstyle is like ponytails and stuff like that, you don't want to do that, because remember, the cuticle is already really tight. So if you have the hair in a ponytail or in a bun, or if you have the cuticle like tightly gripped all the time with like braids and things of that nature, you'll end up having a problem. But what good thing is, you'll also notice that your hair, like it will stay straight a little longer because it's harder for the cuticle to open. So even if you are sweating in your scalp, you may not have your hair revert back as fast. There is not necessarily that low porosity hair is a bad thing or a good thing, or don't do that. It's not that one porosity is better than the other. It's just all about the way that you maneuver around your hair's porosity. You want to remember, whenever you are shampooing the hair, to first detangle the hair with the oil that is low on the comedogenic scale. It will give you more than enough slip, and it will also help you to move the remaining of that natural sebum down the hair shaft. If you want, you could do like a scalp treatment at that point. That'll be in another video. Do like a scalp treatment or something like that at that point to help you open the cuticle a little bit more, and then shampoo and condition the hair. Again, if you want to know a little bit more about that 7-day challenge, link in the description box below. I'll break it all the way down to the ground over there. You want to prevent as much damage as you possibly can as you try to slowly open the cuticle. So really make sure that you are properly detangling your hair before you do anything. Detangling is number one for our low porosity hair. You want to make sure you're trimming your hair regularly. I know that this is like a little shaky little subject. Number 5, trimming your hair regularly. I know that this may be a touchy subject for a lot of people, but remember, trims are not haircuts. Haircuts is when you're losing inches. When you're trimming your hair, it should be like fairy dust, like just a little bit, a little sprinkle dinkle, just a little fairy dust. But it's really good for you to go ahead and make sure that you are keeping the ends trimmed, because once your ends split up the hair shaft, they never stop splitting. They just split all the way up to the hair shaft. They split all the way up to the hair. They split all the way up the hair shaft until it gets to the follicle, and then once it gets to the follicle, it begins to split within the follicle until it splits, until it gets to that port. Oh my God, until it gets to the part where the follicle meets the blood supply, and then that's when you start feeling pain and things of that nature in the scalp, because what you're actually feeling is your blood supply detach itself from the follicle. So you want to make sure that you are keeping up with your trims regularly, because if you are a person who already has low porosity hair, you have a cuticle that's really tight and your ends are split, that's a lot of tension coming from all areas, coming from the bottom and the top. And when the cuticle is so tightly compacted together, it's very easy for your ends to keep splitting all the way up the hair shaft, all the way up to the follicle, because the hair shaft is so tightly knit together. The cuticle is so tight together anyway. So something that's tight, one thing split, they all split and dip, you know. Make sure you keep your ends trimmed, and then make sure that you're minimizing the amount of high manipulation styles, so you'll reduce the chances of mechanical damage, because mechanical damage happens when you're constantly doing wash and goes, and you're constantly doing 2-strand knots, or you're constantly wetting your hair throughout the day or throughout the week, right? You only should be styling your hair on wash day. After wash day, you should not touch your hair again, styling it, wetting it, twisting it again until wash day, right? Every other day after the day that you style your hair should be you wrapping your hair up at night and unwrapping it in the morning. And your scientific brushing doesn't have to be some long drawn out thing. Your scientific brushing could be when you wake up in the morning and unwrap your hair, and then when you go to bed at night and wrap it back up, whether this is you doing twist outs, right, and you you do your twist out in the morning, and then you untwist your hair in the morning and style it, but then right before you go to bed, get a wide tooth comb through all of your hair to the best of your ability, twist it back up, and then repeat that same thing into a wash day. Wash day, you are going to go ahead, detangle your hair with oil, and then follow your wash day routines. Set your hair in a style to the next wash day, and then repeat it all over again. But adding a bunch of extra products, layering the hair with a bunch of products, and styling the hair every day in a repetitive cycle is going to do more harm than good. It's going to be heat styling and heat tools. Now, one problem that a lot of people with low porosity hair have, people with low porosity hair, are the people who get heat damage the fastest. Because first problem, most people are so scared of heat damage that you get a whole bunch of products and you layer your hair with products, because in your mind you're thinking like, okay, I'm gonna put all of these layers of product on my hair, and these products are gonna be the barrier between my hair and the flat iron, or my hair and the blow dryer, where in reality you're doing the opposite. Because think about it the same way that you think about when you put oil on the pan when you about to fry chicken. Before you put any food on the pan whatsoever, you are greasing the skillet. So the second you know when your food is ready to go on the skillet based on how the oil is boiling when it contacts that heat. Everything has a boiling point, and most of the oil's boiling point is way lower than 450 degrees. It's way lower than 300 degrees. A lot of things, the boiling point could be at 100 degrees, but most flat irons are at 350 to 450. So the more layers of oil you put on the hair shaft, the more that your hair shaft can be damaged. So you really want to make sure that you're being careful when you are adding any type of oil to the hair. First of all, you don't add oil to straighten your hair. You're going to use a serum, and a serum and oil are two completely different things. Leave me a comment below if you want me to jump into that, because as you can see, we can't go there today. You want to make sure that you're using a heat protectant and not an oil. We have to remember, you can't just take products and switch them around and use them for whatever you want to use them for. You have to use them as directed. So a oil is going to boil. Putting the oil on your hair is going to be like frying chicken, and your hair going to be the chicken. Your hair going to be the chicken. Okay, but if you're going to straighten your hair and use heat, you can use a serum. A serum has a very, very small molecular weight, way smaller. The molecules are way smaller than the oil. So a serum is actually going to go into the hair shaft, so you don't have to worry about frying chicken, because it's going to go into the hair shaft and protect the cortex of the hair shaft, as well as protecting the outer layer of the hair shaft. So you have the cuticle. So you have to really remember that there's a difference between those two products. And when you have low porosity hair and you add heat to your hair, it's gonna hold it, because your cuticle is still closed. It's still shut a little bit, right? So you want to make sure that if you have low porosity hair, for one, you're not turning your heat up that high. Somebody with low porosity hair, I don't straighten their hair on anything higher than like 385. If they have super duper thick low porosity hair, then I'll probably do about 400 and use really small passes, really small pieces. But that's about it. But you want to make sure you're not layering product on top of the hair, because you're going to heat that oil up on top of the hair shaft, and you're putting the flat iron on there, so remember, it's hard for the heat to escape. So all of the heat that you're putting on the hair is amplified. So even if you have your heat at 350, if you have 3 layers of different products on top of the hair shaft, you've increased the temperature drastically because of the rate that the oils are heating up and the butters are heating up on the hair shaft. So that's going up right there, and then that's how you're amplifying that heat damage. So you want to make sure that if you are flat ironing your hair, you're not using anything but a leave-in conditioner for your blowout. Your leave-in conditioner is your heat protectant for your blow dryer. oh, excuse me. And then when you go to straighten your hair, you're just simply using a heat protectant, and then after you're done straightening, you can use a serum. Some serums do double as heat protectants, so that would be based on the products that you are using. Make sure you check the blog post so you can see all of my product recommendations for low porosity hair. Number 7, you want to make sure that you're avoiding tight braids and really tight styles a lot. Now, there's a certain time of the year, like if you're sweating a lot in your head or whatever, there could be a certain time of the year that you have braids. I know I do. It's braids on the hill. So you just have to really have a set schedule, because like I said previously, by you having low porosity hair, your cuticle is already super tight. So by you having styles that cause even more weight to be put on top of the hair's cuticle, your hair becomes really fragile really fast. So you'll notice that after you take your braids out, you'll have a lot more breakage than normal, or your hair doesn't necessarily feel that strong. So you want to make sure that before you put any protective styles in, before you do any braids, you do a treatment for your hair. There's so many different treatments. They're not just moisture treatments and protein treatments. You can get a strengthening treatment. Strengthening your hair cannot only be done with protein. There's so many other options. Again, check the links in the description box to check out some of the options that I'm recommending to you. But you want to make sure that you're limiting the amount of time that you're keeping certain styles in your head, because the longer you keep the cuticle tighter, the weaker the hair shaft gets, because the hair shaft is already pretty tight. So you want to make sure that you put a time limit on your styles. I know that certain styles can be pricey, but you're paying for the labor and the style and the longevity, right? So I want you to really, depending on your porosity, depending on your hair's profile, really think about the hairstyles that you get before you get them, and really be true to yourself and the amount of time that you allow certain things to stay within your head. The longer you leave a weave in your head, the higher the chances of damage you have, because the weaker the hair shaft is, the more it's just been trapped in a little bit of funky stuff, because you know it's funky stuff. In a minute it's gonna be funky stuff in here. So be careful. Tight hairstyles, tension, and all of those things should not be done. You want to make sure that you are going over and beyond for damage prevention, right? You do not want to cause any excess damage to your low porosity hair, because again, the cuticle is already tight and you don't want to damage anybody's hair. But low porosity hair, the more products you put on it, the more experimenting you do, the more it's gonna hurt. High porosity hair, you can get away with a little bit more, because high porosity hair, it let everything in and let everything out. So the product barely gonna be in there anytime anyway, and it's gonna fade away, and the cuticle don't want to close anyway. We'll talk about that again later. But you and low porosity hair and high porosity hair, we alike, but we different, and we can't be doing the same stuff. Number 8, be patient, right? I went ahead and shared my whole HS journey with you, and I'm gonna keep sharing my HS journey with you guys, like things that I experienced in my scalp, how I'm healing myself from it, because I want to show you guys that it takes time. Even for a person who's been in the hair industry doing good with amazing results from over 40,000 women, you know, it's still a place where I still have to obey the laws of science. I still have to obey the laws of creation, right? Because at the end of the day, science is nothing but a study of God's creation, and that's what it is. So I have to work with God's creation, that is me, to understand the natural rhythms of my body and work with it instead of against it. Because when I understand, when you do a hack, the only reason that you look for a hack is because you're like, this gonna take too long. How can I do this real quick with the least amount of work? But you gotta remember, you gonna be in that body for the rest of your life. So why wouldn't you want to take the time to learn a new system that you can stick with, so you're not constantly on YouTube searching for how to heal bald spots, how to grow this back, how to do that. Like once you figure it out because you understand the science of the body, that's it. And now all you have to do is spread the word. And if you still want to watch hair videos and stuff like that, it's for entertainment or for ideas, but it's not because you don't know how to master your own body. So that is why I want you to be patient. Take your time, learn your body, learn the science of the human body, and then based on that you can then set up your routines. But remember, you want to make sure that you are using the least amount of products as possible. We're staying away from proteins and we're not putting heavy layers of product on top of our hair, okay? Let's think about it like this. Low porosity hair do not want to be bothered. They don't want to know nothing about your new favorite products. They don't want a whole bunch of layers of your new favorite products on them, okay? Your low porosity hair don't want to be pulled on and tugged on. It don't want to be bothered. Your low porosity hair wants you to wash it, style it, and leave it alone until it's time to wash it again. That's what your low porosity hair wants from you and nothing else. I hope this video answered your questions. If it did, or if you learned anything new, anything that you think that you can apply, make sure you leave the comment in the description box below and let me know what part of this video you like the best. And if, last thing, and all of these answer my questions, like let me know what issues you're having that you think could be related to low porosity hair. Then make sure your post notifications are on, and make sure that you click the link in my description box below, read my full blog post on low porosity hair, and then make sure that you subscribe to my website, because when you subscribe to my website you get a notification there, even if they being dusty and not sending you one here on YouTube, because you know y'all be being dusty.